Hello, Troy.
Hello.
How are you today, this morning,
I'm good.
this evening, wherever you are?
I've got my blue screen set up.
Oh, yeah, I see it in the background.
So we can...
Should have ironed it.
Yeah, well...
I've got my home screen set up. People get to look inside of my private dwelling. And comment if they dare. Of course, I'll find out where they live and, come visit them. We'll have a little chat, a couple of drinks, right? Not at gunpoint. We're not at that point yet.
Sure.
But it's a thought.
Testing this yesterday. I don't know where my background's gone. I had a nice
Troy, you never lose your background, you always have that. That's the one thing you do have is, who you are, where you come from.
True.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, anyway, that was a bit disappointing. I thought I was going to be in space when I started.
Yeah, it says that the note taker for Troy Sadowski, he's not in the meeting yet. Host is not in the meeting yet.
Ah, well, I've got him coming up.
Yep.
In the we got participants 3 reporting in here, and yeah, note taker correctly joined. Says I'm a virtual note taker joining this meeting on behalf of Troy Sadowski. So that seems to have worked this time. And the recording happened. So we're recording now. Did you get a message saying recording has started?
I got a woman's voice that told me,
Yes, I heard that.
A couple of things. I think that was one of the things she said, but who listens to that? We're listening to the other stuff that was much more interesting. Right? Women from machines. I think it's going to be an improvement. I really do. I think we have that to look forward to, in our history as I don't even know what vocabulary to use anymore, Troy. Anything I say is going to be wrong. It's like being in a bad marriage. Another one? Yeah.
So I'm just
I got a request today.
I'm trying to...
Whoa, who's that?
Oh, wow. That's weird. Oh, right. I gotta choose this.
No, it's I prefer. Can we have her?
That's Shane and Louise.
Really? That's his wife?
Yeah.
I think she deserves better. I think she deserves better. A guy like me might interest her a lot more than being with Shane, who kind of looks like, farmer. Me, I don't know what I look like, but I think, yeah. And you're blocking her. Can you like move over and block Shane?
Sorry.
Other way. Yeah, that's good. And what's she wearing? Yale? No. What kind of t-shirt? What does it say?
Let me move totally out of the way. Yeah. No, that's
Evans something Dale.
something.
Oh, yeah.
Dale.
Is that an Australian girl?
Yeah. It is. She's actually, her mother is Philippine, from the Philippines.
Really?
And yeah.
And Shane, he's just criminal background, right? Like all the rest of you Aussies, right?
Seeing if mine has blue screen, but it's pretty good in sort of not up. But I was so disappointed. I had a nice little space image.
Yeah.
Ready to go for this.
Well, you need a data scientist to help you work all that out.
That's right.
I know one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's really tough to talk to, you know.
Go to here and
We can try. Okay, so anything we're doing in particular? Or are we just waiting to start, or have we already started? You know, this
Well-
is so weird because, you know, when I am working on camera,
yeah.
I don't look at myself, right?
Okay.
Why do I want to look at myself when I'm performing? I don't. You know, then Nick, I have a little
Right.
screen in front of my face when I'm performing to see how well I'm performing behind the
Mhm.
screen, while other people are looking at the back of the screen, which hopefully will be transparent, so they can look through the screen that I'm looking at and see me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. That way we can all look at me. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Still just
We're all waiting for you, right? Yeah, that's right. Technician. Should have done your homework.
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
working. See, they're disappearing.
Had a pretty productive day. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got my
So-
telephone and my internet back. All I had to do is bribe the guy. Wish I'd have known that earlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much did you have to fork out?
Well, I made him an offer he couldn't refuse, right? Principally said,
Yeah.
in exchange for fixing my phone, I'll give you 6 ounces of buckshot. And we started the
Right.
negotiation there, right? It was either that
Okay.
or I could count one pellet at a time, which would probably involve my, you know, AR-15, and until he's had enough, and then he can say that's enough, thank you, and do the work. So actually,
Mhm,
I think I
mhm,
came out
mhm.
pretty good because I didn't have to shoot at all. So I saved
Mhm, mhm.
ammunition, got my telephone, and he even left me a message and said, here's my personal phone number. If you need anything else, let me know. I said,
Wonderful.
okay,
Okay.
Frankie. So we got Frankie where we want him. They had to replace the whole line from the station here.
Wow.
He said, yeah, we're going to need a bucket truck. It's like, okay,
Mhm, mhm,
Frankie.
mhm.
He came, opened the box, put a couple of little alligator clamps on some wires, and disappeared for 4 hours.
Oh,
And I'm sitting here,
yeah.
you know, with no internet. He cut the internet off entirely and the phone and went away.
Mhm,
So I ended up
mhm,
having to
mhm.
call AT&T again. And you know what? They charged me for the call. I told
Mhm.
the girl, I said, look, I want my money back for the calls that you guys made to me, telling me that you were coming, asking me if I was 18 or older, had anyone in the house had COVID, blah, 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 on forever. We're coming. We're just a minute away, which was more like 30 minutes, right? And then I asked her, I said, can you give me my money back that you took from me from calling you to come and fix the phone that you took away from me? You know what she said? Nothing. There was a dead space online as she was, I suppose, giving me time to get over myself and said,
Okay.
you know, I can't help you with that. And this was an American, right, on the line.
Mhm,
It wasn't like
mhm.
Chinese, Filipino, Indian people, something like that. Did you know now in India, one province is paying people to sterilize themselves. Want to make some money? Go sterilize yourself,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Whew. I think this world is turned upside down. We're really recording? Is that right?
We are
Yeah.
recording, but we haven't officially started. I mean,
Why
I
not?
don't think
We not
I mean,
just,
it could be.
we can call, I know what we're going to call it. Eavesdropping.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it. Welcome to eavesdropping. As they drop in on you and I having a casual conversation about, I don't know, like
Oh, yeah.
phone service being restored, right? Why not? I started writing, well, I was gonna, okay, I'll just speak freely. Started writing a book today, right?
Great.
And I call it Space Bastards, a
Okay.
diary.
Okay.
And it begins, I'll read you the first couple of sentences. Ever wondered where we came from? The popular story is we came from apes, the evolutionary theory. It's true in part. We did come from the apes, with a little help from space bastards. Don't get the idea that we're a benevolent bunch. We're space cowboys, rejects, abolished, and that everything that you are, you can give thanks to us. So I like this concept. I'm breaking from the story now.
Okay.
I like this concept principally because, it does away with the G-D word and gets down to, this is where you came from. And it's futile to try and change your nature, because whatever it is you're doing, we taught you. Or we, as they say around here, we learned you. So, yeah, that's North Carolina for you. And it's like, why should we wonder about war? It's like these space bastards. I was going to call them another name, but I think I would have had police at the door. And principally, everything that's wrong with this planet is right with them because they're playing a game with us. And it's like, why not? If you had a bunch of, I don't know, things, right? And you wanted to have fun with them, like when I was a kid, we had toy soldiers, and we would throw croquet balls at his army. He would throw a croquet ball at my army. And last man standing was the guy who won the war. I think I had like 10,000 little plastic green men, not aliens, but yes, American soldiers. And then there were, began to collect them, like there were Confederate soldiers, the British, all kinds of really expensive lead knights. Some of them just standing there with a pike. And my brother came home one day, my brother, the guy I like so much, and said, I've got 2 kids now. I would like to borrow your soldiers. And I said, what happened to yours? Because he never cared for them. So he took all my soldiers, every one of them, I mean, just some really expensive stuff. And I never heard from it again. And it's like, where are my soldiers, man? Never answered. Like the girl on the phone, right? Just dead silence as an answer. I figured, okay, the Russian saying, no answer is an answer too. All right. They must have gotten that from one of the talks that you and I had, right? Previously. I mean, we're not Tucker Carlson, mind you, but, I'm sure they're recording everything we say because it's so damn valuable. You know what I mean? Okay. So there it is. Look for it in time. Space Bastards.
Yeah.
A diary. You like it?
I think,
like the idea?
Yeah, I mean, that concept in referring to the Anunnaki, I think is a great story that's kind of, floating around. And I actually heard a long time ago, because you mentioned there's a reference to lizard people. And I think it was about
They live next door.
Yeah, 20 years ago, there was my friend, like, you got to talk to this girl, actually. I forget her name. Yeah, she is so set that the world.
It wasn't Liz, was it?
No, it wasn't Liz. It was, yeah, I forget, but it, just, yeah, nothing special about her, but he just crossed paths with her somehow at a party or something. And then, and it came back to me when you were talking about the reference of lizard people, and this theory I think has been around obviously since the time that they were actually here, perhaps, but it's definitely been around. Yeah, in my first reference or coming across it, 20 or more years ago, when a good friend of mine was saying, look, you got to talk to, the ideas are so far out that you just can't stop and listen. And yeah, she was talking about the Anunnaki, I believe, although
really
I didn't connect it until this connection with the lizard people. But yeah, the aspects I do remember is that the humans have become the way they are because of crossbreeding with lizard people, and there are the lizard people from another planet, and the lizard people just look like us, and can blend in with us, and there are people out there that are directly in that lineage of the lizard people, that
shapeshifters, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. So yeah, that's all I remember from that, about coming across it many years ago. And then when we were talking about the Anunnaki and yeah, the, I guess, back kind of
Back then,
well, I was going to say the backstory that kind of has been growing. It's not the mainstream, like nobody is really picking it up and running with it. I mean, there are people, but it's always still in the kind of the in the shadows that these Anunnaki are here. And perhaps they if it is true, which for me actually doesn't matter if it's true or not. I think I'm alive right now, and I have my gifts, and what I'm set to do in terms of enjoy what I've got and apply my skills. So for me, it's an interesting story, but it doesn't matter really, and it doesn't make a big change to my life of what I do each day. But yes, it's an interesting story, and if it is given that anything's possible, and one story is just as likely to be true as another. If this is true, perhaps they do play a part in keeping it in the low side, on the downside, on the out of the limelight. And why not? If they have the power to do what they're doing, then they perhaps have the power to influence what's promoted and what's not, in terms of their story.
Yeah, because if they programmed us, let's forget the if business.
Sure.
That when they programmed us principally as workers, not as thinkers. And every now and then, we stumble across a higher concentration of Anunnaki blood when they fornicated with apes, right, and came up with human beings. And from time to time, not mentioning the royal families, which kept their concentration high, but among the common people, you end up with like an Einstein or something like that, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
they're not going to let us control them. That's not why we were created,
Yeah.
right? We are play toys, playthings. We can be, let's say you and I are Anunnaki, okay? And it's like, let's play a game of chess, but let's use people, right?
Mhm,
And instead of the tower, right, we'll make the tower like a colony with certain attributes about how these people are, maybe Vikings like that, right? And then we'll make the bishop, I don't know, we'll make them Romans. And then the knights, we'll make them Germans. And then who else is left? The pawns, they can be Chinese. And then we create all kinds of different conflicts
mhm,
where we play out this game, you
mhm,
know,
mhm.
like Risk or Monopoly or whatever. It doesn't matter. We can make the rules ourselves. And then we just watch them slaughter each other. And you have to understand, I call them space bastards. That's only because I'm always pissed at them, right? But they don't have any kind of, it's better to be pissed off at them than it is to be pissed off at God, because the consequences of pissing off God are, drummed into our head much more, if you're going to believe in imaginary beings, much more than they are about Anunnaki or space bastards or space beings, or what I like to call as space pirates. These guys, I mean, let's knock off all this business about worship and, all this other nonsense, which is, of course, what you would do if you were created from an ape and given certain skills to perform. You're not going to be writing sonatas. You're not going to be composing symphonies or anything like that. You're going to be doing what the hell it is you have to do to feed the guys who made you, because that's part of your job. They
Mm.
don't want to do this anymore. And then every now and then you come up with a good looking, human, whatever you want to call us. And there's simian people all over the planet. So maybe it was like an orangutan in Southeast Asia that they fornicated with, and some other kind of long extinct being in South America or North America. Africa had its own. You come up with all these things that we now call races, right,
Mhm,
of people, and you pit one against the other. Why? Because you don't care. You live here part-time, but you can leave anytime you want. You can join the Watchers, which are principally, in the ionosphere somewhere out there, um, directing what resources they're taking from the planet to sell somewhere else.
mhm,
And
mhm.
we revere gold so highly. Why? Because the people on Nibiru, the planet, understand from the Anunnaki, is losing its atmosphere, so they needed gold flakes, whatever it is, to stop their sun from baking them all and making them extinct or whatever. And now they're back. They're looking at uranium. Okay, we've refined uranium. Great. Maybe they'll take that to power their little space wagons or whatever. Who knows? I understand from some historical accounts that they actually had spaceships that were powered by mercury, the
Mhm,
liquid metal.
mhm.
So these guys, they come, you can imagine, just like us, except in space or just a little different. They've got these huge cargo vessels that they find cruise around the universe and say, okay, these guys need this. We'll go to the Earth. We've got some workers there. They'll dig it up. They'll refine it. We'll come back in 26,000 years and pick it up.
Mhm,
And then it's like, okay, you left your sandwich on the counter, and suddenly you get up in the morning and there are ants on it, right?
mhm, mhm.
Well, you can throw the sandwich away if you want, or you can eat it, ants included. I do that sometimes myself. There's a piece of cheese, it
Sure.
had some green mold on it,
Yeah,
and I didn't want to throw it away. So, and it doesn't taste bad. And I keep thinking, okay, well, I'm just putting penicillin in my body, right? What's wrong
that's
with
right.
that?
Yep, yep.
So I don't think we really count for a lot, particularly if we're going to be making demands.
Mhm, mhm.
What are they going to say? There's a moth. He wants to go outside. So what? No,
Mhm, mhm.
I really believe that, if we get out of line, then we're nothing. Just turn the page, flush the toilet, whatever it is. And I don't think it would be really very entertaining if I was an Anunnaki, and maybe I am, who knows, right? Or at least, or partially at least. I like to think before we all turn back into the mongrel nation, planet of apes we were when they got here. You know, if I'm not pleasing to them, fine. You know, if I see some mold in my bathroom, I pick up a handy spray bottle and wipe it out. That's it. And that's, you know, so I think that what happened was is purely fiction now, what we've turned it into, this whole monotheism. And when I was writing Space Bastards or Space Pirates, whatever the publisher decides to call it, it's like, well, I do what pleases me. And if it no longer pleases me, or I've used up the resources of the planet, you know, the one with the nuclear core, I understand the Earth has a nuclear core. All right. And it produces stuff that I can use somewhere else. I'll just drop by, rape the planet, kill the people, enough of them, you know, so that a few of them can continue to work. But I'm not interested in their intellectual prowess, right? I got uranium to sell over here in this solar system. These guys want it. They're paying and we learned everything we do from them. That's why we revere gold so highly. What my friends in Russia call yellow metal.
Sure.
Whoa, that sort of puts it down, right? And the guys who are able to taskmaster the rest of the people and who accumulate, you know, acclaim and wealth, what we call wealth. Those are the guys we want to be. Why? Because they're the controllers. It's not, you know, they're raping the planet or whatever. Of course they are. How else do you get rich? All wealth has its source in nature. But, you know, whether or not we can be them is another question. Can we be the exclusive taskmaster of the town we live in? Or some people seem to have it way over us in terms of being able to do that. And we worship them. You know, the same way that the Anunnaki want us to worship them because they've got, you know, fragile egos. Hey, we gave you life, show some respect. You know, Rodney Dangerfield kind of that. I don't get no respect around here. And it's like, well, then, you know, erase him. Who cares? I bet you don't remember that ant that you stepped on 10 years ago and where its soul went, do you? Come on, Troy. Be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all move around in the world, and I think the key for me is that we do what pleases ourselves. And I think that is a double-edged sword because for some reason, you know, turmoil and disruption and these kind of interactions that excite us, or, you know, bring a level of I don't know, just energy that's there, is in us real. And, you know, for humans, they kind of, for some reason, enjoy conflict or enjoy what they kind of need at some aspect, want to be creative, but still, you know, there's an aspect of if once you have everything sorted out, I don't know what it is, whether it's driven by and I can talk from personal experience. You know, I just think that, you know, everything's sorted. I've got, you know, a great, you know, job and a wife and 3 daughters, and then, you know, everything's ticking along. But then all of a sudden, bam, it's all disrupted. And whether, you know, I had a part in that, or whether it was a higher power that kind of drove this happen to you know, to where it is, there's turmoil. and turmoil kind of exists in the world for one reason or another. Actually, another friend that had a theory around this why we're all here question is that same aspect is that there's energy being generated in planet Earth, and there's somebody that needs that energy or something. So an entity out there that is just like the sun is giving us life. There's something that is eating or, you know, being energized by the energy that's generated in planet Earth. And the more turmoil and disruption there is in planet Earth, the more satisfied this entity becomes, because its thirst is quenched. And that's why
That was me. I was the guy who told you that about nanochips, remember? That they just fall from space and they attach themselves to humans, create emotion, which is the energy they feed on. And then when they're full, they just go. Is that what you're talking about?
This was another person who had a similar theory.
Another weirdo.
Yeah, I've mentioned Steve Hiscock, who is in Bhutan now, running a small IT company. So this is one of the theories he came up with. Well, I mean, this is, you know, what we discussed, and when we're talking about deep and, you know, meaningful things like why are we all here and what's the meaning of life. But yeah, it's interesting. You have a similar concept in your mind, and you may have told me as well, which is why perhaps it resonated with me so much to remember it. But yeah, the point being, you know, the purpose of why we're all here, and if it is to please, to do things that are pleasing, then, you know, that's whether it's to please ourselves or to please the Anunnaki or to please the people who, or the gods that created Anunnaki, which is, you know, another theory or aspect to consider is, even if the Anunnaki, you know, everything about the Anunnaki is true, who created the Anunnaki and where did they come from? And
maybe they're the result of physical laws like us. Because I think in a lot of ways we're kind of trapped into this concept. And I was writing down some of the things you were saying, like the meaning of life, the purpose of life, gods and things like that.
yeah,
And I'll bet you, let's say, that we go somewhere else and those concepts don't even exist, right? That we are privy to only such a tiny bit of information
sure,
that we, you know, get nuts about. And then we take this theory and we extrapolate it to such an extent that it actually becomes our purpose for living, you know, and pleasing God and happiness and all that other stuff. And, you know, what I'm thinking is I'm reaching for my spray bottle. It's like, you know, fuck this. There's enough of this. And it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what we're talking about as well. I mean, in terms of, if there is a controlling power, or the Anunnaki have this power over us to, you know, say, okay, stop talking about us. We want to be in the shadows, and, you know, somehow manipulate or change the brain waves or whatever they do. They're actually seeing something as an issue, like you're saying. There's mold in the bathroom, so we want to get rid of it. Which, you know, we see at all aspects of natural creation and evolution. If you one particular reference that is attached with Bhutan is the Quarterset, and the Quarterset role, it's a little fungus that affects caterpillars, and it's only you know, when they inhale it or ingest it somehow, it takes over their body and it makes them walk like a zombie to a perfect position where they grow the spore emitter out of their head and then emits the spores and infects more caterpillars. The only reason it affects, and this is as far as the science can tell, the only reason it affects those caterpillars is because they're overpopulated. And there's
Who's overpopulated?
these
The
caterpillars.
worms?
Yeah, the caterpillars. So, and if this fungus didn't, this cordyceps spore didn't exist, then the caterpillars would be a problem and, you know, take over and eat all the vegetation and, you know, things would be out of place in terms of
At 25,000 feet or 55,000 feet, right?
well, yeah, wherever
these things are like around the frost line, aren't they?
yeah, well, yeah, that's where they grow, up in the mountains.
Ghost moths or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's
Yeah.
other concepts. I mean, another species, I guess, of this cordyceps that affects different insects in different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ants in South America,
Yeah.
they have this same thing.
So, and you know, when you talk about as like just weeds, for example, on a plant basis, if you have a plant that does, you know, does better than it should, I don't know whether it would or not, but if at some stage it's going to die because it can't be the only plant. It can't take over the whole, you know, species of all the different plants and still have what it needs. So there's a kind of a natural or a threshold of natural life that needs to fit in with the balance in the ecosystem that exists. And when things start to get out of balance, such as, you know, too many caterpillars, then things happen like these little spores that infect them, and they would only survive if there are caterpillars around the actual
No,
fungus.
you don't know that. You don't know that, right?
Well,
it may be they like these gypsy moths or these ghost moths, right? And if these ghost moths disappeared, right, then this cordyceps fungi, I think it's a fungus, would find something else to live on. They would mutate like everything else does, right?
Yeah,
in order to survive.
That's right. It would have
right.
to mutate.
And I think, you know, part of what happens to us is we mutate as well. And one of the codes, I think, behind all of this is there's something imbued in everything that is, I think it's remarked upon in the Bible. It's called be fruitful and multiply, right?
Right.
Which means have a good time. And as long as the resources are available, you know, go for it, man, and get as much as you can, because tomorrow you will die. And I think what's happening is that we give everything a philosophical tint to it, right? When it's just a chemical mechanism that's going on. And it's like, but we got to make something out of it. It's like, oh, no. This is really something very interesting. And we have to, I would suggest we think about it in terms of being mindless apes until someone has given us something to think about. And directed us and changed us genetically. And, you know, why we spend so much time on trying to decipher why things are the way they are, or rationalize it or come up with something, it seems to me to be, you know, a waste of time.
Yeah.
In this Space Bastards story that I've been writing, it sort of gets down to eventually that inner voice, that instinctual level of, you know, ape that we have within us speaks loudest. And those which is what's happening now on the planet, right? This is not about laws and morality and all this sort of stuff. When let's say let's just pick the Chinese, right? Who don't think like the Westerners do. Well, I don't think that they think wrong, and I don't think we think, well, I should think more Chinese. I mean, maybe Nancy Pelosi does and people like that, Chuck Schumer, but I don't. And we have all these different sets of values that come from basically survival, right? Be fruitful and multiply, which is the worst thing you could possibly say to people, unless you're sitting way up there watching this, this game play out.
Yeah, that's right. That's what
which doesn't sound like a lot of fun for us.
That's what
we're being used.
Ways, yeah, that's what the cordyceps fungus is saying to those caterpillars. Go be fruitful, multiply, because the more you multiply, the more I have to infect you, to make you a zombie, to take you where I want to, so that you can be in the optimal position for me to multiply.
Well, that's what's happening now on the planet. You can take any virus, for instance, right? Like this COVID nonsense, right?
Yeah.
And you can imagine that what's happening there is, okay, this creation, whoever's responsible, we're not sure, is programmed to replicate.
Yes.
But does it have an intention? Well, I mean, we can think it does because it probably grows out of our own weaknesses, right? What we're and our fears, all that sort of stuff. When in fact, I could look at that azalea out my window here and said, it's trying to take over my world, and go and chop it down and burn it. But maybe it wasn't really trying to take over my world. I just saw it that way, Yeah. I think we give ourselves far too much credit, really. It all goes back to basic instinct as we move closer and closer to, our mongrel nature. And the blood is so diluted right now. Nobody has anything to offer. Nothing, And so I think actually, you've got accounts in history where people are abducted by aliens, And there are, I think there's biblical accounts of them and other historical accounts as well, where they come down, they take people, especially the rock in Jerusalem, right? So he stood on this rock, which was principally a landing place for these space vehicles. And they take him up to heaven, meaning space. And then they take him, show him around, teach him a little bit, do a little of this, do a little of that, tinker around with him and bring him back to Earth. And when they do that, we don't know. I mean, they're certainly not going to drop him off on Broadway in New York and, with fanfare and horns blowing and things like that, and advertising agencies kicking in that the new savior has arrived. It's just like, unless they have a purpose to continue our procreation, why should they do it? Unless it's part of some kind of, game. Let's take one of them, right? And give him an idea. Let's call it theory of relativity. And see how it plays out. Well, look what they came up with. They came up with nuclear devices where they can wipe each other out. And then they don't live here. I mean, if they do live here, that's up to them. But if they don't have to live here because they came here by choice, I presume, or on a mission, like pirates. They'll just go and there's a Spanish galleon full of gold. Let's get it. And whatever. So I think we think of ourselves as, and I think this comes from this whole God principle, that we think we're right. And we've got all these reasons why we're right. And it's like you give a kid, a set of Legos. There are only so many things he can build with all those Legos until he runs out of things. And then it's like, this isn't interesting anymore. I want something different. And then you do something different. But I don't think we have any grand aspirations, unless, of course, it's programmed into us by this whole theory of monotheism that we are the favored people. We're the chosen people. And that all we have to do is to follow these laws. Well, the laws they follow are not the original laws. And where are the Hammurabi and all these other guys who had these first laws in Mesopotamia? Obviously, they didn't make it. And the other ones, the smart ones, went back to Nibiru or wherever they were from. I mean, you're not going to spend all eternity here on Earth. Mamma mia. I would like to see some other things, some other things that humans cannot even conceive of, and just go out there and drop by if it's fun. It's sort of like, surfing or cruising. You just press the remote. Oh, it's interesting. Okay. Anything interesting happening there? No. And you just go on, and that's it. That's the cosmic concept of humans on Earth. It's like, whatever. Do something interesting. Okay, Buddha, Jesus, whoever, it doesn't really matter. They were all just figments of our imagination that came out of the information that we were given, and that we bastardized the whole idea of Anunnaki to form some kind of idea of monotheism. That's the best we can do. I think Nietzsche said principally, it's been 2,000 years and you haven't invented another God. It's like, what's wrong with you people? Well, I want to stick my finger in my mouth and say, I'm doing the best I can, right? And I probably am.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's there's a lot of interesting aspects. There are two interesting aspects to point on or talk about there. One is the need for humans to discover something new, or the joy that you get when you see something for the very first time, or you understand a concept that was never before considered. It's like, as a child, it happens all the time when it's the first time you go to the seaside and you see this vast array, this ocean that you couldn't fathom. What the hell is that? But then, it has a mystique, a beauty about it. And, you can see it in the kids as they're watching, if they're old enough, to actually express their emotions and what they're looking at, they'll be in awe. This is amazing. But then over time, you bring them back to the ocean and they go, oh yeah, that's the ocean. Yeah, I saw it last time. And then again, yeah, why are you taking me to the ocean again? It's like it loses its, because they've seen it before. But that moment of not knowing what it is and, discovering, and this is, I think, in part of all humans, is that, we want to be introduced to new concepts, to explore new aspects of what's being created in the world. And this is the number two, the ability to create new things or to come up with totally new concepts. And how that actually happens, the theory of relativity given to Einstein, and aspects of just new inventions, like anything from Velcro to things that we have like blockchain technology, or the transistor itself in a computer, and the new leading applications of microprocessors, and all this combination of the world we have and the things that we're creating, to put to a use that people, like, when they see it, they go, wow, I didn't know that was possible. Yeah, and it happened to me the other day. I mean, just as a simple example, and in Zoom, like we were playing before with the blue screen, there's a feature where you can put it into presentation mode. I'll actually hop down into the little corner, and then I can present and be on the same page. And something that I'd never seen before until I was shown it by the guys over at Notive. And these are the things that, you know, excite me, that these, when I get to see it for the first time, I get to share it, the knowledge that of how to do it. And then I also, you know, get to play a part in creating these things, and, you know, tying it back to my field of data science and the data scientists, and the union and the amalgamation, or the data scientists amalgamated that we're establishing, want to emphasize is that, you know, we have this ability to create new things. And why that's there, or, you know, for whatever reason, whether you call it God or Anunnaki or the, you know, consciousness itself, we have it. And it's fun to create things, and it's pleasing. So if we can go about the world and adopt this aspect of doing pleasing things in a balanced way, but I mean, it's up to the individual, or I guess community as a whole, how far they take it, because, you know, you can get caught in this concept of the Quarterset, where, you know, it's okay, we're overpopulated, so bang. And you know, you mentioned COVID, and that's perhaps a close example of, you know, the world and reports of being overpopulated are there. And, you know, a virus like COVID to bring things down to a little balanced, you know, step down the other way is seen, and it's been, you know, seen over you know, the history of humankind. These pandemics come every 100 or, you know, 200 years. So we live in this world, we have this environment to work within, but, you know, we can create new things, and we can discover new things even if we didn't create them. So that's what data science is all about, and that's what the group, as a amalgamated group, can be you know, pursuing or to take on as a mission. And it's pretty simple, and it just comes to those two aspects of creating and discovering.
I'd like to speak to what you just said, if I may.
Yeah.
Because I'm I'm trying to understand it in terms of basic needs, and what those examples of expression that you've just gone through tie into. Because I think what you were speaking about is foraging,
Okay.
which is basic survival skills, right? You're, let's say, I don't know, animal X on the plains or in the savannah, and your body tells you that you need to ingest something of nutritional value to keep yourself, you know, hopping around or doing whatever it is you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that foraging need is present in, as a fact of creation, why you're able to even be here, is that that's what you do. And I think you can probably make parallels to some of the things that you were saying by using these particular words. I think if you're foraging, that creates or utilizes a sense that we call curiosity, right? You just keep looking until you find it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you find something that seats itself in your brain or your knowing somehow, and you understand that if you stick your hand in a hollow tree and pull out, you know, a bunch of honey, that the next time you see a hollow tree with insects flying around it, you may be inspired to believe, I shy away from the word think, that you will get the same reward by practicing the same behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in terms of creation, what we create, whether you're a data scientist or anything else, is a matter of, I think, what I would call biological progression. And that would be the ability to synthesize, right? That you take one experience, it has something in common with another experience, so that you put the two together and may actually create, I don't know, the first thought, if you want to look at it that way. And I would say also,
Yes.
to address your idea about cordyceps, is I think humans are cordyceps. We infect everything in our own way. You know, we don't have periscopes that shoot out powder, but that's just, you know, one example of how we do it, right? How we take over the entire world because it's ours, because of this, you know, imaginary being named God has bequeathed it to us to rape and screw it all up, you know, and because we get something out of it, which feeds our, I don't know, foraging or curiosity needs. And this brings to mind that if you come across something, you stick your hand in that hollow tree and come out with more honey than you can possibly eat, then like cats or dogs, or maybe cats more so than dogs, they don't mind sharing because they're not worried about you taking what they're going to eat in the future. They're just eating out of the bowl now, right? And that leads to a kind of communal aspect of animals, in that something supersedes their possession. Lost you, Troy. You're gone. What happened? Troy? We'll wait for Troy. Okay. I'll contact him on Skype and see what happened to him. They have this interesting phenomena happening where, oh, there he is. I like it. He just says, hey. He's just restarted his computer, so he'll be joining us soon. Okay, I'll say, and wait for him. Troy's a data scientist, one of the early ones, and you can see he's making an attempt to promote himself or his business, which we're in together actually, and say, if this is interesting for you, maybe we can get together, which is kind of what ties in with what I'm talking about what the Russians called a kommunalny, or a commune, like in Israel, for instance, where people get together and they satisfy all their needs by working together and taking what agriculture provide, which we can thank the Anunnaki for that in Sumeria and Mesopotamia. So we got it from somewhere, and the Anunnaki are the missing link as far as I'm concerned. Oh, Troy, I see you were called to the ships orbiting the Earth. Well, welcome back. That was a small interlude. But I was principally just continuing to talk about where I was going, about abundance, right? That the whole program of abundance is it creates a communal, a sharing kind of a thing. If you have more than one person can eat, like the cats at the bowl, you don't mind if they eat theirs too. But if you're down to the last, little morsels, well, you may have a different situation. And then, of course, when you're in a communal situation, I think the next blink or do something, Troy. You look like a picture on the wall. Are you alive, Troy? You can see his picture, but I don't see him moving. He said, well, there he goes again. So that allowed me to continue, because this communal aspect creates tribes, right? Where there's a sort of interdependence happening. And then you have, civilization as a result, where everybody has different talents and abilities, different mentalities. And if it's all centered around the survival of the tribe, then your efforts are somehow rewarded, right? You have better fed baby producers, better fed babies. You seem to somehow, in this aspect, move through the chain of life to get to a point where you can think about other things. You know, if the hominids climb to the top of the tree, well, then they could sleep soundly and their brain would develop. Which is just a arbitrary suggestion. And if that happens, you know, time after time after time, that's fine. You produce some nice apes, but you're not going to go anywhere unless somebody like the Anunnaki come and principally do some genetic engineering. And that genetic engineering will be that leap that's often spoke about in philosophy. I think logic is also called a leap. Things of that nature, which came to us not by overturning a rock and finding it underneath or developing ourselves to the point of, you know, making an evolutionary leap, jump again to we have nothing to attribute it to. So I am all in favor of thinking on a broader range and not limited by the way we're thinking now. That something, if you want to talk about the abstract, then we are talking about, I won't say interference, but certainly being joined by other evolutionary aspects. And it's also, and my last comment, we have Troy back now, is that one of the things is you look at all of these historical artifacts, and it's pretty clear to me that this evolutionary leap that we've been speaking about didn't just happen that one time. You know, you've got the deluge, which they talk about, or the flood, because the Anunnaki fornicated with every living thing on the planet and produced some really interesting mythological characters, which are buried under mountains of mud, et cetera, et cetera. But that wasn't the only time it happened. It's just that kind of history, or quote unquote history, that we lean on to give our life some meaning. Like, you know, okay, how did it all begin? Adam and Eve? Do your Sumerian research and you'll see where that all came from. It's not literal. It's just been transmuted into something literal. And certain people are rather greedy with that and have some kind of a compact or agreement with, I would think, a severe edit of some 600 Anunnaki that are recorded in these Sumerian tablets that were on the earth at one time, not counting the guys who were, you know, in the supply ships or the watchers, I think they call them, that were above. So if we limited to 600 and then some Semite from Ur, which is in Sumeria or was in Sumeria, gets a brainstorm, a clever idea, and takes it west to his people or to people who would believe it, and then recreate rather sloppily, I might think, the story of creation, which of course is not unique. You know, it's pretty clear. It didn't all happen with Abraham. And I understand, if you'll do your research, you can find it all online. Viper TV, I think, is a good one to explain all this stuff to you. I'm not good at that. It's like, you know, taking you back to your source and give you down at the bottom of the page, you will find where you can go and check it out, maybe eventually. But anyway, so that's where I stop. Troy, I think you probably have some sense about what it is I was talking about. You okay there now?
Yeah,
Troy's in
it's just
Australia.
interesting that that thing would happen right now. We're talking about, you know, higher powers and, you know, control. They didn't
want you to know.
Yeah, it's just a little, is it coincidental, or what's the right word, that it's trying to shut things down? But yeah, I'm sure, well, you know, it looks like I need to update my Zoom software on this laptop. I'm using this new camera that's on my phone, and I attached I set my iPhone 12 up as the webcam.
Yep.
That's why I could use the blue screen as well as it
Yep.
was. But then, yeah, I think it's something to do with that. It just, some software is needing to be updated. I believe it's Zoom, so that it can.
Data scientist, right? Data scientist.
Well, this is the part of the data scientist, role, is to explore and try new things.
Crash your computer, try to get it up again, all that sort of stuff.
That's
I think we
right.
can all use a data scientist, Troy. I want a
Well,
data scientist program on my computer, right? That's constantly monitoring the situation, telling me, what's about to happen if I don't do this, if I don't do that. It's sort of like your mother, except in a computer form. Right? Troy, I told you, update your platform, something like that.
Yeah.
And you didn't, and you know what you got. I told you.
That is one aspect of data science, but I think data science is also in this exploratory, adventurous stage where you actually get yourself into trouble, where you actually push your computer to the point where it says, I can't handle this, I'm shutting down. So it's not just to
I know
play
people
safe.
like that.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what the essence of what we're talking about is to be exploratory, to take everything we have and push it to its limits, whether it is a computer sitting on your desktop or the thoughts that we're actually having about how to create something totally new, because we have this capability, our biological makeup, our brain. We can do things with it. We can move our, things around. And, when we're talking about cordyceps again, and, being able to control a caterpillar and the telescopic spore generator, and so that it can emit its seeds and
I have an apparatus like that, Troy.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, well, let me say
it's not on my head. It's
no. Well, I wasn't going to go that angle, but my angle is we have our voice. I'm actually, whoever listens to this and takes in that information, I have the ability to influence them, to control them. And we have 100 and over 100,000 now ears and receptors that through our computers, which is the telescopic, get to the right spot. I want to actually move this caterpillar till he's in the ideal, the winds are coming this way, so I'm going to get in there. So the tools, the apparatus, the telescopic arm that we're creating have created things like YouTube and the video recording that we have right now, to get it in the right spot to blast it out. And all it is it's not spores from a fungus, it's actually words, and those
data,
words,
zeros and ones, right?
Well, yeah, ultimately
it's data. Just
that's right. Everything that's what we're doing is digitizing
our spores.
Nice. I mean,
you've been infected.
And this is the beauty about data science. It existed before we had computers. I mean, you don't need a computer to use your voice. And ever since we crawled out of the caves and started communicating, you can see a level of sharing information, and our ability to share information is rapidly increased. The accessibility for us to share, anybody can share, and this is what's sparking off new creative ideas. And because, like we're saying, you get access to information that you didn't know, and in the past would have been really difficult to actually get. As examples, the computer science degrees, all the information that you would get at a university that you would have to pay thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars and years to sit through, is now available through the internet on YouTube, and you can get that whenever you like.
Can I just have an injection and get it? You
Well,
know,
it
instead of
takes a
going to
little bit of,
college, I just go down to the local clinic and they say, what kind of degree do you want? It's like, I don't know, philosophy. They give me a jab and suddenly, you know, I'm a philosopher. And all I
well,
have to do is pay, you know, a couple $100,000 and the feds will give me a loan for that.
I know you're saying that in a little bit of a jest, but I think, you know, as an idea that can be, you know, it's not that, I mean, people are working on that. I know, with, you know,
Like Total Recall, right? Where you go and you have a vacation implanted in your brain.
well, yeah,
You're a spy and, you know, is it real or is it, you know,
yeah,
Memorex?
that's right. It's in, you know, the concept of Matrix, where, you know, you plug in, and that's exactly what he
Yeah.
experienced when he was, you know, he trained to become a ninja warrior and you know, an expert in armory, and it all just got uploaded, or how to ride a motorcycle. So yeah, and those concepts that are inside the Hollywood themes, you know, are coming based on what's actually happening in reality. In some cases, you know, they inspire these creations, and this is another aspect, you know, that we didn't, I think, mention yet, but is really important. This combination of the Hollywood storytelling and the innovation of science that is interweaving, because I believe we can create new things. We have the ability to just imagine something and then make it into, bring it out of the imagination and into the physical world.
Troy, I'm going to stop you because this sounds like a really good time to end this video with a place to begin next time. And I think our viewers really deserve to know how you and I got together, right?
Right.
And how that's spawning. Maybe we'll take a trip through time and just give people an appreciation about how these two nuts came together, right?
Sure.
And take you through our journey and give you an appreciation if you're interested in what's going on. And I would like, if that's okay with you, I would like to close by saying something about you. Is that, you know, Troy, and maybe Troy can tell you something about me from his perspective, is that there's something really very interesting about Troy in that, and I don't know whether it's true for him or not, but it is for me in viewing him, that Troy has an ability which I think is instrumental in his life, and that is pattern recognition, you know? The ability to, and maybe you can speak to that better than I can, I believe, and how that, as a closing remark for you, how that affects what you're doing now. Can you?
Yeah. I guess, you know, pattern recognition is a core aspect of what I think I do every day as a data scientist. It's just, you know, identify things that have happened in the past, and, you know, and put models in place so that we can simulate and replicate these patterns.
Reoccurrence, right?
Yeah, in some ways, you know, I don't do it consciously. I mean, it's something that, is pointed out that I do. And, you know, even the whole role of a data scientist, that's how, you know, I believe, you know, I was unconsciously a data scientist until someone else pointed it out. So yeah, yes, I can recognize that is part of, you know, my capability, my ability, my, I guess, gift that I've got, which, you know, I really, love applying, but I
I
don't
put you on
know.
the spot, Troy. I put you in an impossible
I don't,
situation because,
yeah,
I want you to feel comfortable about speaking about this. And I
sure.
think that, at least from a viewer's point of view, me as a viewer as well, to give you a chance without putting you on the spot, to begin to tell the story in your own words about,
Hmm.
and you can lead up more logically than me, throwing a wrench in the works, which is what I feel like I just did. In this next adventure, we're going to share with people about how we got together and what
Yeah.
it was that, well, again, recognition. There was some kind of something going on. If it was something strange, we wouldn't have any kind of real connection with it. But if it's
Hmm.
something familiar that we see in another person, then,
Hmm.
even if it's just one time before, that brings around a kind of idea that, there's something we have in common, right? We've shared
Hmm.
an experience, maybe not together, but separately, and we can compare and talk about it, in a tribal sense, and see what develops from there.
Yeah.
Blah blah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly what I think the data scientists amalgamated club and group is all about, is letting people
Mm,
recognize something in someone else, and
mm,
talking about it, putting it out and discussing, hey, what's your thoughts on this? And yeah, I think that is one amazing attribute you have, is to be able to communicate with anybody, and your desire and your interest, and the openness and the honesty that you present as yourself, is kind of intriguing, and gets people's
mm.
attention. So yeah, that charisma that you have in establishing rapport, whether um, they agree with you or not, they just want to know and talk to you and say, well, what do you think about this? And then yeah, that inspires
Mm.
new thoughts. And this is,
How interesting.
yeah, that on an individual level, it's just learning and getting a new perspective. And that's what I think creates new things, is this
Wonderful.
cross pollination.
Well, thank you, Troy. That's great. I think this is sort of the beginning of a new civilization, the way as I feel about it, right? And we,
Yeah.
we caution those of you who don't approve of the kinds of things we're saying against throwing tomatoes at your computer screen. Okay. That might not be something you really want to do,
Hmm.
but it's up
Hmm.
to you, right?
Yeah.
Troy, shall we say goodbye then for now
Yep.
and
Sure.
pick up on this tomorrow? And when we
Yep.
broadcast it, well,
Yep.
we'll let Troy decide. He's the data scientist, right?
Sounds
Okay.
good. I mean, yeah, great work.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Same to
Danny.
you. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you
Okay.
tomorrow. Okay. All
Yep.
right. Bye,
All
everybody.
right. Bye.